Hello, everyone, and welcome to So What? I hope you're having a great start to your week so far. I have a lot to share with you today, and I'm going to be taking you through a little bit more of an involved project than we normally do here on So What. So I hope you're ready to dive in and learn about some waterproofing techniques and some products that help you, keep the moisture out of things like tote bags, raincoats, even umbrellas if you want to add embroidery or embellishments to them. I'm going to be giving you some pointers on how to seal up all of those needle holes and retain the water resistant properties of fabrics after they have undergone stitching and embellishment. Because as we go further into spring, I hope that we get a bunch of rain. I hope that, when I say a bunch of rain, a good amount of rain. Some rain that's going to, make our grass greener and grow beautiful flowers and those types of things. Not destructive rain. You get the idea. But before we get started today, I did want to address something. And I was wondering if you all were seeing this social media trend out in the universe of these action figures that people are making of themselves. Are you noticing this on social media? It was all I could see over the weekend. A bunch of my friends making, AI generated action figures of themselves. And some were better than others. And so I kind of got on this kick, I wanted to see like what was it going to generate for me. So I generated rather an action figure for myself. I posted it on my Facebook page, and whoopsies. And I thought it was okay, it was fun to do, I guess. You basically go into Chat GPT and you put in some prompts of who you are and what you want your action figures little sort of accessories to be. And then it generates this image of you kind of almost looking like a Barbie doll, and then a few little accessories in a blister pack as if you were, buying it at a toy store or something like this. All right. So I don't know. I just saw them everywhere. So I thought, well, this is a trend. It's probably going to be a fast moving trend. I wonder what it would generate for Sulky. So I did the same process and I typed in, some prompts, create a sulky thread toy with some accessories, and ChatGPT generated this, fake sulky action figure toy. So I posted it on the Sulky Instagram and Facebook profile, or pages rather, just as a fun thing, kind of going along with the trend. And it just did not even occur to me that it would be offensive to designers and artists out there, who have followed Sulky and who use Sulky products and things like that. And, AI is really a tricky thing. It's not the coolest thing to be using to replace actual artists' work and, the amazing things that designers do. And it just, I feel so, I guess ashamed is a good word to use, for posting that on our page that, we are a champion of artists and designers. We celebrate everyone who creates with their hands. And I honestly, it just never even occurred to me that using and posting something that was so AI generated would be offensive. And so I really just wanted to publicly acknowledge that, I made a mistake in posting that. I really was really treating it very lightheartedly, and I should have realize the implications of that. So at any rate, I would like to publicly acknowledge my ignorance in that, and it is what it is, I suppose, in that it's posted and it's out there. So I just wanted to say that was my doing. And yes, I do work on behalf of Sulky. So I just really wanted to, again, say that Sulky appreciates artists and designers and always, wants to give credit where credit is due. So the use of AI is not a practice of Sulky. It was done in a lighthearted manner. All right, so, phew, there we go. I think it's always important to, acknowledge when you've made a mistake and acknowledge that, you have been made aware that these things affect people in different ways. So there we have it. All right. Lots of you coming on saying hello. I appreciate that. I do have a great giveaway today. We're going to give away an embroidery design to one lucky viewer who is watching, commenting, giving me those emojis, somehow engaging with the post. That's all you have to do to be automatically eligible to win today's embroidery design. It's called Sunshine and Waves, and I'm going to show it to you momentarily. It's featured on the waterproof tote that I'm going to show you how to make today. Incidentally, the waterproof tote pattern is only a freebie at sulky.com for the month of April. So after April 30th, it's going to go up for sale. So you definitely want to grab up that tote pattern while it's free. Download it, save it to your computer, save it for a rainy day. I know, I'm okay. Or start creating it today. I'm going to go through the how-tos with you today. So it's a great time to post your questions in the live chat or in the comments, depending on where you're watching from. And we can address those live here. And then when you're working your way through the pattern, you can also use this video recording as a reference. So every time we go live, our videos then become an on-demand recording, either on YouTube or on Facebook. They're a little bit easier to find on YouTube because we have a So What playlist that lives on YouTube. So you can search up waterproof towel tote and you will find it there if you need help while you are working your way through the project. All right, some other exciting news before we get to the project today is that our next free webcast is ready for registering. This webcast is going to be taking place on May 13th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time over at sewingonline.sulky.com. And it is in partnership with the American Sewing Guild. Every year we do an event with the American Sewing Guild, and it's a great time. Love the American Sewing Guild. I've been a member for a long time, for almost my entire sewing career. And it's a really great resource for getting to know other sewers in your community. Basically, after you join American Sewing Guild, you can be a member at large, which means basically you are attached to all of the chapters of American Sewing Guild, or you can select a chapter near you, and then you can, join special events. You can do virtual learning opportunities. A lot of chapters, they kind of operate independently under the umbrella of American Sewing Guild. So it's a wonderful resource, even if you just want to meet like-minded people and gather together every once in a while. It's a really great organization to be a part of. And I'm, really glad that we partner with them every year because it gives me a chance to, not only talk with all of my friends at American Sewing Guild, but also to tell you all about this great organization if you're not already a part of it. And if you are, let me know what chapter you belong to in the live chat. I would love to discuss. And if you're new to American Sewing Guild, you can check it out at asg.org. So the topic of our May webcast is patriotic patchwork. And I do want to say, we call it patriotic because our kit is featuring some beautiful red, white, and blue batik fabrics. And I'm going to show you those momentarily. But the techniques that we're going to cover during the free webcast can be applied to any types of fabric you want to use. So you're really learning a patchwork technique where we're going to create our own gridded interfacing, and then we're going to make piecing plans for our interface, or for our stabilizer grid. We're doing gridded stabilizer rather. And I'm going to show you different piecing plans, different patchwork orientations you can do, so that when we go to piece together our patriotic patchwork panel, we are going to have perfect seams, corners, and edges. All our points are going to match up perfectly because of the technique that we are going to learn during this webcast. So, patriotic patchwork, you can see, I'm going to take you through how to create a panel that's about 18 by 24 rectangle size. So it's a great wall hanging size. It's a great garden flag size. It's great for displaying on a front door. Or you can also create a fusible applique out of your panel. And you can kind of see it in this picture. But what I did was I took my panel and I appliqued it to the back of a jacket. So I don't know if you've seen these sort of quilt block jackets, I like to call them, where you inset a quilt block into the back of a jacket. You can use a ready-made jacket, or you can make the jacket pattern from scratch. But they're everywhere. If you go to a quilt show, if you go to a sewing show, and even if you are just walking out and about, maybe even at your guild meeting, you might be seeing these quilty jackets. And so this is kind of a hack for a quilty jacket, or a way to display your patchwork panel. I'm also in progress working on a third sample. Actually, it'll be the fifth sample that I do. And I'm going to use the same exact panel technique, or gridded stabilizer technique, to create a patchwork tote bag. So basically, once you learn the method that we're going to talk about, you can create so many different projects from it. And you can use the same exact kit to create either this flag that you see here, the heart that you see on the back of the jacket. I also made a pillow. Let me show you that. I made the heart panel into a pillow. It looks really great. And I quilted it in with concentric hearts all over the panel. So different ways of personalizing it, whether it be the quilting, the patchwork plan, or piecing plan rather, the size of your gridded stabilizer, all sorts of things. I'm also going to be making mini versions, so a mini sort of coaster / mug rug with the leftover fabrics. So there's so many things you can do with the kit. Here is what the kit looks like. You get a whole charm pack, which are 5-inch squares of these beautiful patriotic themed batik fabrics. And incidentally, these batiks were made in Indonesia, in Bali, at the factory that I visited when I went on our sulky Bali tour. So I just love how this is all coming together. But you can see these red, whites, and blues in the prints. And then you also get 16 5-inch squares of different white prints, white fabric prints. And these are in a low volume blender print because they're going to be the accents for either the outline of the heart or the white stripes in the flag. And then again, you could also do kind of a piecing plan that's all your own. You don't have to follow the piecing plan for the heart or the piecing plan for the flag. So we'll go over all of that in the webcast. All right, also pictured here is our patriotic thread sampler, which is our 50 weight cotton thread in red, white, grays, navy, and then a brighter true blue. You can use those for the piecing and for the quilting, depending on what type of quilting you want to do. And then also you see that blendables thread. That's a 30 weight cotton thread that I absolutely love for the quilting. So again, it's really going to depend on the quilting that you want to add. You can see in the heart sample a little bit closer here, I've used the blendable thread in that heart that I quilted over the top of the pieced panel. And you can see the red, the white, the blue, and I just love a blendables thread. So that's also included in the kit in a special snap spool size. And then you also get a pack of Soft and Sheer Extra. Soft and Sheer Extra is a fusible stabilizer that's permanent. And this is what we're going to use for our grid. We're going to place our squares of fabric. And the reason you get a 5-inch square is because you can either cut it into 4s and use 2.5-inch squares for your piecing plan, or you can cut it even smaller and use 1.5-inch squares for your piecing plan. That's what I'm going to use for my mini coaster or mug rug set that I'm going to make, are much smaller squares. And the advantage of gridding your stabilizer and using that as the base is that you can work with really small squares. You can do mosaic type quilts and fuse those squares to the stabilizer before you do any of the sewing. And that is how we're going to get these perfect edges and corners and perfect patchwork as we move along in the piecing plan. So this is the kit. It's already on sale. I believe it's under $40 for all of these things. I want to say it's $39.99, but I always forget. I just second guess myself with pricing. So check it out at sulky.com and grab your kit up. This is one of those things where once these kits are gone, they're gone, because these fabrics that we've curated for the kit, they won't be around forever. You just never know. Love this one. It's little fireworks, but it also kind of looks like flowers. So either way you look at it, here's some other blue flowers. It's a really, really, really pretty batik collection. Love it. All right. Those are my leftovers that I get to use for my mini little coaster slash mug rug. Here is another image of that flag. And there are two different orientations of the flag. It's, flag etiquette states that your blue corner of the flag be in the upper left corner. So if you're going to display your flag this way, you would put the blue square in the upper left corner. If you're going to display it horizontally, then your piecing plan would have your blue corner in the upper left corner, how you more traditionally see the American flag being flown. Making sense? All right. And then we have our jacket. This looks really great with the quilting. I will say adding this to a jacket does make the jacket a little bit heavier. But if you're always cold, or if you're making this for a certain time of year, that's not going to matter too much to you. But I thought it looked really great on denim. I love red, white, and blue. Anything patriotic with denim accents. There's just something about it that looks so striking. So you can do a jacket as well. You can use these as a table topper. You can make placemats from your panels. Here is the little pillow again that I created, all with the same kit, all using the same stabilizer grid. And then once I have that tote bag made, it's in progress. I'll show you that as well. And for the strap, I think I'm actually going to do a cute little pieced strap as well. We'll see. I haven't made the strap yet. So again, lots of things you can create with this kit once you learn the technique. Sign up for free. Once you sign up for the webcast, and just like all of our live events, if you can't join live, it's completely fine to still register. You'll get a free machine embroidery design, this America design that you see here, just for registering. And then if you can't join us live, you will have access to the video recording of the event that you can watch anytime after the live event ends. So you'll still get all access to all of the materials, the video, the machine embroidery design, and special pricing on the kit, as long as you're registered for the event. All right, so that's coming up. I'm super excited about it. Love working with the American Sewing Guild. All right, shall we get to our waterproof towel tote, also known as waterproof beach tote, also just known as the waterproof tote. I want to start by saying that this project debuted in our summer mystery box last summer, 2024. So if you were lucky enough to grab up one of those boxes before they sold out, then you are familiar with this waterproof beach tote already, because in your mystery box, you received this beautiful fuchsia OtterTex waterproof canvas fabric. You received the webbing straps that are featured on the tote. You also received all of the thread included in this machine embroidery design, as well as the stabilizers that we use to create the tote. So the first stabilizer that we use is Sulky Tear Easy. That's what we're going to use to embroider the pocket. And the second stabilizer that's featured in the tote is called Sulky Stitch and Seal. Stitch and Seal is actually a stabilizer that is applied after the embroidery is done, and you fuse it to the wrong side of the embroidery, and it seals up all of those needle holes that were created during the stitching process, so that you still have the water resistant properties of your pocket. And when you put your sunglasses and all kinds of things inside that pocket, you won't have any water or moisture on the interior of the pocket. So Stitch and Seal is a really unique stabilizer. You can use it, as I mentioned earlier, for embroidering umbrellas. We have a tutorial on that on our blog at blog.sulky.com. You can just search up umbrella embroidery. It's really unique to embroider and personalize an umbrella. It makes a really great Father's Day gift. If you have a dad who loves to golf and needs a golf umbrella, because who doesn't? A really great way to personalize an umbrella with a cute little golf design or a dad design. And you always want to treat the wrong side with that Stitch and Seal stabilizer, so that when you're using that umbrella, it's not raining on you anyways through those needle holes. All right. So in addition to this and the embroidery, well, the embroidery, I should say, is optional. You don't need to add the embroidery to that outer pocket, but this Sunshine and Waves design was created specifically for this design. The Sunshine and Waves design is available at sulky.com. I believe it comes in 2 sizes. So the size that we're using on this tote is the 5x7 size of design. It actually might be in 3 sizes. So along with the pattern and all of those materials, everyone who bought this mystery box last summer also got the machine embroidery design. So if you've never gotten a mystery box before, this is a taste of what those boxes look like. There were also other things included in the box, not just the materials for this project and for the embroidery. There's always some gifties and some extra spools of thread, things like that, that we like to throw into the box depending on the theme and depending on what's going on that time of year. So I wanted to take you through how to create this really great tote bag. First of all, it is very large. It has really large boxed corners so that it has a nice base to kind of stand up. It fits, I want to say, 5 beach towels, at least 5 of my beach towels. And yes, some of them are thinner than others, and it really depends on how you fold them. But if you're just putting towels inside, it'll fit quite a few towels. It's really good size. I love the webbing handles. They're nice and sturdy, and they are stitched to the tote with the help of a facing. The facing does a couple different things. First off, it hides the raw edges of the webbing straps, and then it also reinforces that top edge of the tote. So when you're taking things in and out, your straps are nice and secure inside of that facing. And it just gives a nice finished upper edge to the tote as well. The pocket is really large in scale, so you can add sunscreens and even probably a pair of flip-flops that are, they'd be poking out of the top a little bit, but it would keep your shoes away from the other things on the inside of the tote. So lots of you saying you made the tote. The embroidery design really elevates the bag. Love that. Colleen, hey, she said, made it last year. Love it. The fabric was great. Yeah, speaking of the fabric, it's a really unique fabric called OtterTex canvas. So it has a waterproof coating on the top of the fabric, or on the exterior side. The really shiny side of the fabric is the interior of this fabric. And it's a pretty pricey fabric, but if you are looking for waterproofing properties and you don't want to have to go buy a waterproofing spray or treatment or what have you, this fabric is really great. It's a pretty heavyweight fabric, and I'm going to give you some tips and tricks for how to sew with it and how to kind of manage the slippery factor that you might experience when you are sewing it together. All right, but first off, we're going to focus on the machine embroidery of the tote. So I used Tear Easy for the tote so that it would tear away cleanly once the embroidery was complete. And this is really important because we're adding that stitch and seal after our embroidery is complete. We don't want the stitch and seal to attach to any remaining stabilizer. We want it to have a clean fuse to the back of the OtterTex canvas fabric. So we want the stabilizer to fully remove so that we can get that nice bond with the stitch and seal after our embroidery is done. So to sort of match the weight of the fabric, we're going to use 2 layers of Tear Easy stabilizer. So I'm using a magnetic hoop here. It's really great for embroidering heavier weight things that can't normally fit in the hoop of your embroidery machine. But I'm also going to do hoopless embroidery techniques anyway, so you could really use any hoop at all. But if you are interested in magnetic hoops, what those are all about, what sizes, how are they compatible with your embroidery machine, you can check them out at sulky.com. All right, so once you have 2 layers of stabilizer, we want to load the design into the machine, and then we're going to select the based around design function. And this is going to stitch before any of the steps of our design stitch out. This I'm actually using more as a placement tool than I am for actually basting the fabric to the stabilizer. So based around design, and then you can begin the embroidery. So we will put the hoop onto the machine, and we're just going to run that basting stitch step. So now I have a box that indicates where my design is going to stitch out on my stabilizer. So after you have that box, you can remove the hoop from the machine. And I just, as a placement aid, I am going to draw my horizontal and vertical design axis lines onto the stabilizer. And you can see where the center of the design is now. I just like to draw that on there because it's easier for me to see. It's easier for me to see than, just putting the needle down in the fabric. But if you have placement stickers or hoop stickers, or maybe you even have a machine that will project the image of the design onto your stabilizer, use all of the placement methods that you prefer. I just find this is the most universal for people who have different brands, makes, and models of machine. Everybody can do this technique. And if you don't have a based around design function, you can use a design template to mark the center cross marks, or you can just use the markings that are on your embroidery hoop and just draw a cross mark onto your stabilizer using those markings, just to have a better visual clue when you're placing your fabric onto the stabilizer. So now we are also going to create our cross marks onto the fabric. So rather than using a disappearing pen or something like this on that otter text, because I really wanted to avoid having any indentations on the fabric. So instead, I just did a little finger press. So first I fold the pocket fabric in half widthwise, and I just finger press a fold line because we're using one long rectangle as our pocket. We're not using two pieces of fabric and then sewing them together, but rather we're going to fold that pocket so that our embroidery is enclosed inside, the stitch and seal is enclosed inside, the other side of the pocket's going to act as the lining. All right, so first we need to find half of the pocket, and then we need to find the center of that half. Make sense? So now we're going to fold up that lower edge to the first fold line we did, and that's going to be our center horizontal line for the design. And then we're going to fold it the other direction to get our vertical orientation. And now we can align those fold lines that we just finger pressed into the fabric with the lines that we've drawn onto the stabilizer. So now we're going to use some KK2000, and we are going to spray that stabilizer and stick our fabric in place, matching up all of those lines. Before I go any further, Debbie, I'm going to address this. She says, it says the design is free for April, but comes up as $5.99. Okay, so the Sunshine and Waves design is not the freebie. The freebie is the waterproof beach tote pattern. So that's what is free for the month of April. All right. Oh, and Sheila says, Debbie, I just ordered it, add to the cart, and it comes up free. Okay, thank you for clarifying. All right, perfect. Yes, sometimes you have to go through the checkout process for the promotions and things to kick in. So I appreciate your help there. All right, so after we have stuck our fabric to the stabilizer, then we can put our our hoop onto the machine and we can start doing the embroidery. Make sure too, if you are using a larger size of the embroidery, pay attention to the orientation of it on the screen. Depending on your hoop size, your available hoops, you may have to, sew out your design in a vertical orientation versus a horizontal. So just be mindful of that when you are placing your pocket fabric. So we're going to start the design, and this fabric just embroiders beautifully. It's nice and heavyweight. Like I said, it has that coating on the back, so it really does stay in place on that stabilizer really well. No puckering, no shifting. Just make sure when your hoop is moving about, make sure that your fabric is staying stuck to that stabilizer with the KK2000. All right, so here's our beautiful design all completed in the hoop. When it is done, you can remove your hoop from the machine, and then we're going to remove our stabilizer. So since we use two layers of the Tear Easy, we need to remove those independently. If we were to try to remove both at the same time and start tearing it away from the design perimeter, you can risk kind of pulling the embroidery toward the wrong side of the fabric, which can cause puckering on the right side. So we want to be very gentle and remove one layer at a time, making sure we get it nice and clean along the stitching edges. And it comes off beautifully because this design is largely made up of thicker satin stitches, which give a beautiful edge for the stabilizer to just come away cleanly. All right, so here you can see I'm removing the second layer and it's just coming up perfectly along those edges. And then once it is removed, we're going to cut a piece of Stitch and Seal a little bit larger than the design. And Stitch and Seal, it almost looks like Sulky Ultra Solvy, but it almost has like a tannish tint to it. So you won't really get confused with it with your water solubles, because as we know, we don't want to touch a water soluble to an iron. Another important thing is to grab a press cloth when we are fusing this, because the wrong side of the OtterTex has that coating on it. We don't want that coating to come in contact with our iron. Okay, so once you have the Stitch and Seal placed over the embroidery design, you can also see that I've cut the Stitch and Seal using a pinking shears. This really just helps, honestly, when you're using any fusible, cutting it with pinking shears just helps you have a better bond along those outer edges. Especially with something like, let's say you're using a t-shirt and you're putting tender touch on it when your design is complete. Over time, maybe 3-4 washings, you might notice maybe the corners start to kind of curl up, or maybe one of the edges kind of wants to curl up. That's really because we didn't get a total permanent fuse during the fusing process. It's almost impossible to, have it perfectly fused every single time. So to prevent that, you can use pinking shears when you're cutting out your fusible. You can also fuse it again if that does happen. Try to just fuse it down again, or even apply a little bit of fabric glue if we're talking about a t-shirt here, just very gingerly, even just with a tiny little toothpick along some of those edges just to make it lie flatter. But for this, the Stitch and Seal has quite a bit of fusible on it, and with the help of that OtterTex coating, these two layers are really going to fuse together nicely. All right, so once we have that, I have these a little bit out of order, but this is how nice and cleanly that Tear Easy tore away. This is the wrong side of that pocket fabric. It just looks perfect. All right, so now I put my pressing sheet, my nonstick pressing sheet, over the top of the whole thing. I love a clear pressing sheet because I can really see what I'm doing. But as I mentioned, you don't want your iron to be touching that OtterTex. So if your pressing sheet can cover the whole fabric, that's really going to be your best bet, so you don't accidentally kind of run into it and melt that OtterTex coating, or get gunk on your iron, that type of thing. So we're going to fuse the Stitch and Seal very carefully, low to medium temp iron, just until we can see that it's kind of becoming one with the OtterTex fabric. All right, so you can see that the coloring of the Stitch and Seal is completely different now that it has fused. You can see along the lower edge there of one of the waves that it's fused in one little area, but still needs a little bit more along that edge. So you can take a look and see, get a really good light, and make sure that it's all fused down. All right, so now that our pocket is nice and prepped, we can go ahead and fold it in half and stitch that lower edge and the sides, leaving an opening for turning. And this is going to be our pocket on the front of the bag. So after we sew the sides and lower edge, you want to be sure to clip those corners to reduce bulk. You can also grade the seam allowance a little bit if you would like, but really important to clip up to that corner stitching point without clipping through it. Now we're going to turn it right side out, and it's really handy if you have one of these Sulky multi-purpose turning tools. I think that the mystery box for this project actually came with one of these as well. Correct me if I'm wrong, all of you who purchased one, but everybody, I think, got one of these multi-purpose turning tools. You know, last summer feels like 5 years ago, but also feels like yesterday. So forgive me for not remembering entirely. So you're going to run this along the interior seam, paying special attention to poking out those corners without going through them. So you want to use the larger end of the multi-purpose turning tool and not the smaller ball point. All right. So once we have that, then you can turn the raw edges of your opening toward the wrong side and clip that shut, and then just top stitch along that lower edge. Now our pocket is complete. The stitches are all sealed up on the inside of the pocket, and you can set that pocket aside. Now we can start working on the exterior tote. All right. So first things first, we're going to create the base of the tote. We're going to mark those boxed corners, and they're about 3 inches by 3 inches. So it's going to give you a nice 6-inch depth for your bag. I mentioned it has a really good base to it so that when you slide towels in, things like that, you have a lot of room along the bottom of the tote. So this is a large scale tote, as I mentioned. So you're going to start out with a really big rectangle for your tote bag. And then once you box those corners and it starts taking shape, it becomes a more manageable size, and you'll see that happening rather quickly. So we're going to mark our corners on both lower edges for those boxed out corners, and then you're just going to cut along your markings. All right, I also wanted to mention that serging the raw edges of your tote before you do any sewing is a really smart idea with this fabric. It kind of stabilizes it a little bit and gives you a nice finished edge of your side seams, because this is not a lined tote. You don't have to line this fabric because it's so heavyweight. Also, adding a lining like a cotton lining or something like that is going to interfere with the waterproof aspect of it. So as long as we keep it unlined, it will be water resistant and have all those great properties. So serging along the sides and upper edge and, all of your raw edges before you do any sewing. If you have a serger, you can also do an overlock stitch or a zigzag stitch on your regular sewing machine as well. All right, so after we sew those side seams, we're going to mark where our pocket is going on the front exterior piece of the tote. And let's see, I might have these a little bit out of order as well. Oh, this is just, excuse me. Kidding. This needs to be rotated, and that will help me out a little bit. There we go. So you can see the upper edge of the pocket is about 3.5 inches down from the top edge of the tote. All right, and that top edge, I have that serge seam. So we're going to mark where that pocket goes. And I also want to mention that we do not want to use pins for our tote bag, because again, we're going to be putting holes in it if we use pins. And also, seeing as how it's very heavyweight, it's going to be super difficult to pin through 2 layers of OtterTex on the pocket and then our layer of OtterTex on our exterior piece. So instead, I recommend using sulky, clear embroidery tape to tape your pocket in place. And the really great thing about the clear embroidery tape, first off, it's repositionable, reusable up to 3-4 times, and you can sew right through it. So we don't have to remove that tape as we get to it. You can just sew right along it. And then when your pocket is done, you just tear away the tape along the stitching line. And it tears away so cleanly and easily that you don't run the risk of those stitches popping out along the sticky tape line. Like, do you see how easy that just tears right away. So really great product to use to tape your pocket in place and then top stitch it. All right, so here we are top stitching just the sides and lower edge. Top of our pocket already has that nice hem, so that which is a little bit wider than our top stitching, so it's a little bit more decorative. All right, now we are going to mark for our handles. Okay, so our handles come in about 6 inches or so from the side seam. So we're going to mark our handle placements on both exterior upper edges, and then use some Clover Wonder clips or that Sulky Clear embroidery tape to secure your handle edges in place. And we're going to do that for the front exterior and along the back exterior as well. Make sure your handle isn't twisted. All right, so this is our side seam. So I apologize if I'm getting a little bit out of order, but now sewing our side seams. What you're seeing here is some double-sided basting tape. I believe this also was in the mystery box. You can use this stuff for a number of things. It's really great for heavier weight fabrics, for making narrow straps, for things like this. In this case, we are going to use it to keep our side seams open on the tote, so that when we go to box the lower corners, our side seams are open and the lower edge. Actually, I think the lower edge is a fold, now that I'm thinking about it. The upper edge, where we have that facing that we're going to add, it also helps keep the side seam nice and open for that as well. So a lot of these double-sided basting tapes, they say don't sew over it, remove it after your project is completed. So for something like this, like our waterproof tote, I really only recommend spot cleaning it anyways. I don't recommend throwing this in the washing machine. So for something like this, we can keep that double-sided basting tape in between our side seam and the wrong side of our bag for the life of the project. So you can see I've sewn the side seam. I also have that serged edge or zigzag if you're using a regular sewing machine. We're going to apply some narrow double-sided basting tape and then fold our side seam over to open it up, and then do the same thing on the opposite side so that our seam allowances are open. All right, so here I am just finger pressing that side seam open over the basting tape. And now, oh, that's what I was missing with our handles. Let's go back to that really quickly. When you have clipped your handles, then you want to baste them in place. Okay, then you can remove those clips and your handles won't go anywhere. So that's the step I was missing. Pardon me. All right, after we open up those seam allowances, now we can get inside the tote and we can top stitch them down. Now that they are stuck open and not going anywhere. So it is a little bit tricky to get in here and top stitch all along that seam. There will be moments when you get down to that boxed corner edge, the lower edge of the tote, where you're kind of folding it so that you can see the right side and you're almost stitching in a little bit of a tunnel. But you can do it, just manipulate the bag a little bit as you go, and you can top stitch down both sides of the seam to make sure that your seam allowances are nice and flat and opened up. All right, here you can see how I'm kind of moving in a tunnel. I'm almost having to like peer over the sewing machine so I can see what I'm doing, so I'm not stitching blindly when I'm doing the top stitching. All right, so now, yes, you could see the lower edge of the tote is a fold. We have our boxed corner edge, and then we have our seam allowances sewn and top stitched. Now we're going to take that corner and we're going to match up that side seam with the lower edge fold line. Okay. Once we've matched that up, squeeze those boxed corners together and clip them shut. And then we're just going to sew along that edge. Now we can create that facing piece. So the facing is about 4 inches, 3¼ inches wide. And we're going to take our 2 facing pieces and sew the short ends together. So now we have a loop. All right. Then we are going to do the same thing and open up those seam allowances and top stitch them down. Now I didn't use basting tape for the facing seam because it's such a smaller or more narrow piece of fabric, and you can really just finger press it open and kind of hold it there while you're top stitching your seam allowance down. Trying to figure out what's going on in this image because I can't remember what is happening here. So bear with me just a moment. I may have to go forward a little bit. Oh, that's the upper edge of the facing. All right. Thank you. So we have our tube and we need to sort of hem one of the edges of it. So we're going to finger press it over and clip it all the way around our tube. And then we're just going to top stitch it down. This way, when we fold it to the wrong side, we have a nice finished edge on the interior facing. All right, so now you can see that edge is folded, right? Now we're going to take the raw edge, the opposite edge, and we're going to clip it to the tote upper edge. We're going to match our side seams, put a clip there first, and then just go all the way around and clip our facing in place. This is how we're going to encase those webbing strip edges. They have a tendency to fray and things like that. So when you are sewing the facing in place, at those webbing seams, you can do a little bit of extra stitch reinforcement. You know, just go kind of over that stitch maybe 2 or 3 times as well. All right. Now you can turn your facing to the wrong side and kind of roll the seam against your fingers a little bit because, again, we can't use our iron on this coated fabric, so we do a lot of finger pressing. If you happen to have like a seam roller, you can use that as well. We just want to roll that upper edge, favoring that edge to the wrong side. And then once you have that nice and flat, you can clip all along it as well so that it doesn't go anywhere. And then we can top stitch that facing in place. So we have a top stitch along the top of the facing, and then we're also going to top stitch along that lower folded facing edge. So we have kind of a wide sort of upper edge on the bag. It's a fun place to kind of put a little decorative stitch as well. Maybe you have a little wave stitch on your machine. You could use that for the top stitching, and it would add another little level of embellishment. And then your waterproof tote is complete. So you can see you can stuff it with towels. You can add some swimsuits. This makes a really great dog park tote. If you like to, go hiking with your pet and he or she needs, a water bottle or gets muddy or, you bring a towel for them, things like that, you can stuff it inside. And then to clean it, you would just turn it to the wrong side and rinse it off with one of those really great microfiber cloths and some cleaner or what have you. Let it dry, turn it right side out again, and you're good to go on your next adventure. So it's a really roomy tote. Love the webbing straps. Love the top stitching detail. The embroidery design just makes it. All the colors go together so nicely. So yeah, it's a really great size tote. And you can make this out of a number of different fabrics. But I just love this waterproof canvas. I think it's really great for spring and summer. And beyond as well. You can use it for so many different things. All right, I'm going to go ahead and address some comments that have come in. All right, where do I find the embroidery design? So the embroidery design is called Sunshine and Waves, and it is available at sulky.com. I just want to reiterate that the waterproof beach tote pattern, not the Sunshine and Waves embroidery design, but the waterproof beach tote pattern is free only for the month of April 2025, and then it's going to go up for purchase. So add it to your cart. It will say $0. Go through the checkout process and you will have your waterproof beach tote pattern absolutely free. If you're interested in the Sunshine and Waves embroidery design, that is available for purchase at sulky.com. But it is also our special gift. Our special gift from Sulky today for one lucky viewer who is watching and commenting all of those good things. We will pick a winner at random to receive the Sunshine and Waves machine embroidery design. All right. Susie Q says, I got that mystery box, but I haven't made it yet. All right. Well, I hope this reminded you to get to your sewing machine and give you some tips and tricks for working with that fun fabric and for embroidering it. So Susie says, my husband just asked me if I could make more totes. Yeah, you could make this for any gender, any age. This would be great if you know somebody who likes pickleball, because they could put their little pickleball rackets and balls inside and a towel, maybe even their shoes. Like, that's how much it's going to hold. And I love that you could just hose it off, turn it inside out, hose it off, dry it off if it gets muddy or dirty, and it's good to go. All right. Where can we find the material you use for the tote? That's a great question. So I would just Google OtterTech's waterproof fabric. A lot of independent shops carry it. I think you can also order it directly from OtterTech's manufacturer. There might be a minimum of yardage, but you can check that out as well. All right. Sharon says, I think this will be perfect for my son's sailboat. Love that. And obviously, you can choose whatever embroidery design fits the recipient. Could put a monogram on that pocket. You could do decorative stitching on that pocket. As long as you're using that stitch and seal after your stitching is done, it will still be water resistant when you are done with your embroidery or your embellishment. All right, Kathy. Yes, Kathy says there's also a product you can paint onto fabric to make it waterproof too. Yeah. There's also fabric like laminated cotton. You could also try getting an iron-on vinyl type product and fusing that to the fabric that you want to use. Just keep in mind, in those cases, your exterior might be water resistant, but the interior may not be. So definitely check the care requirements of the fabric that you're using, just so you know how you can use the tote, how you can launder it, how you can take care of it after it is completed. All right. Well, if I did not get to your question today, oh, Maureen, I don't know what you're saying here. Why is the blue section at the bottom, not the top left corner? Oh, you're talking about the flag. Okay. You're talking about the flag for our patriotic patchwork webcast. So Maureen says, why is the blue section at the bottom and not the top left corner? Okay. So I am hanging I intended this flag to be hung in this way. So vertically, and flag etiquette states that the blue section of your flag should be in the upper left corner where you intend to hang it. All right. So for a vertical orientation, you would put the blue section in the upper left corner. If you wanted to hang this horizontally, because I have a garden flag where I could only hang this in a vertical orientation. If you want to hang yours horizontally, you will do a different piecing plan and put the blue corner on the upper left when you're looking at it horizontally. So I will go through that during our free webcast on May 13th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. You can join us live, or you can watch anytime after the live event because we do record every single one of our live events. And this will be at sewingonline.sulky.com with our friends from American Sewing Guild. So you'll get that information and lots more during this live event. Be sure to register for that. All right. Let's see. Okay. Lois says, great demonstration today. Thank you so much. Linda says, how about Scotchgard? How about using Scotchgard to make things waterproof? I'm less familiar with Scotchgard. I have used it for things like outdoor chairs before, but I can't really speak to the waterproof nature of it, nor can I speak to how it's going to perform if you have added something like a fusible or a stitch and seal or embroidery. So I apologize, I can't answer that question entirely, but maybe there will be more information on the Scotchgard website or something like that. Okay, perfect. Let's see. Good tip about the flag. Thank you, Sheila. I did try to do my research on that one. All right, Rita says, great tote for the beach. Absolutely. It's a great tote for any time of year, really. And, great size to hold lots and lots of things. So I hope you grab up your free tote bag pattern. Again, that's only going to be free for the month of April 2025. And if you are interested in the Sunshine and Waves embroidery design, that is available for purchase at sulky.com. Everything else I talked about today is in the featured products section of the description of today's post. So click on that little see more button, or it might just say more, and then the whole description will pop out. You can find links to everything I discussed today, including links for our free webcast in May and links to join us on our next Craft Tours adventure. So if you missed our Bali tour where we saw how batik fabric is made at the source, these particular fabrics even, you'll definitely not want to miss one of our upcoming Craft Tours adventures. So you can check those out using the link that I posted in the live stream description today. So thank you so much for joining me today on So What, and be sure to tune in next Tuesday for another episode. Have a creative